right, so what we have left of our packet is the monster adjective sheet, and then we have two other sheets that are behind it. It says comparative adjectives, superlative adjectives, and then degrees of comparison. We're actually going to be using these two back pages, so you can rip these apart and keep the monster adjectives for a little bit later on in the unit. So when you have them ripped out, I'm going to have you cut all the way around the outside of these two sheets here. So this one we're just going to cut as like one big rectangle around. One big rectangle around, and then we're going to glue the whole back side down. This one we're going to cut this out right here, so you're going to go all the way down. You're actually going to cut underneath the squiggly line, so that's going to be a little bit more time consuming to cut, just that strip there, and then up and around. Then we're going to cut this part out separate from this part here, and we will actually be gluing this little guy on top of this part up here. So when you have them all cut out, it should look like this. The first one is just like this. We'll glue the whole back side down. The second one, you had it like this, and I separated these two, and then what we will do is glue it on top just like this, and then glue the whole back side of this part down here. Okay, so go ahead and pause this video right now to be able to cut these out and glue these in, and press play when you're done. All right, so now that you are done cutting and gluing, we're going to take some notes. So our first page is going to have comparative and superlative adjectives as our title, and then it'll be this part here. So when we are working with adjectives, sometimes adjectives are used to compare a couple things together, whether that's two things or two or more things. So comparative adjectives are considered ones that compare two things together. Okay, and we're going to fill out some examples here and some rules for them. So if you have an adjective that's comparing two things that has one syllable, you remember the clapping little trick that you did in elementary school to figure out how many syllables are in a word, how many times you have to clap when you say the word out loud, syllable. If it has one clap or one syllable in there, you're just going to add ER to the end of the word. Okay, so here's where this will kind of all make sense. If you're talking about a noun, and you're using that noun and that adjective to compare it to another noun and another adjective with one syllable, let's say it's the word strong. Okay, so that girl is strong, or a strong girl. But now we're comparing it to another noun, we would add ER to the end of it. Okay, same thing with small, becomes smaller, fast becomes faster, and bright becomes brighter. Now, if you have an adjective being used to compare two things that has two syllables, so you would clap 2 times when you're saying that word out loud with a Y at the end. You are going to change the Y to I and add ES to the end. 2 syllables, change the Y to I and add ES. So let's say it was an easy test. Well, now the test was easier than the other test. So we have a Y at the end. We're going to change that Y to an I and add ES or ER. Let's change that to R, sorry. Easy to easier. We have happy. The happy dog is now happier than the other dog. We have a busy street, but that street is busier than the next one down. And dry. That towel is drier than the other one. Okay, now 2 or more syllables. This would mean it has 3 or 4. Hopefully not more than that, otherwise that's a long adjective. We're going to add the word more in front. Okay, so instead of adding an ending to the end of the adjective, we would add the word more in front of the plain adjective. So let's say we're working with pleasant. In some of these words, we'll do beautiful, you'll notice you wouldn't add an ER or IER at the end, and it makes the word sound weird. You've never heard of it said that way. So if that's the case, a lot of times you'll know just to add more in front of it. Or if they have a different ending than the other rules here. But some of them, you're kind of going, all right, well, let's look at this. This has 2 syllables, so that could actually fit under this category, but it doesn't end in a Y. So this rule only applies to the adjectives that end in a Y. So we're not going to say it's pleasanter than the other. We would say something is more pleasant than the other. You're probably going, all right, the word beautiful, can't just add an ER to the end and say beautiful, or we would say she's more beautiful or it's more beautiful than